Welcome to the Bowling Breakdown. This is your one-stop shop podcast for all things bowling. We have a lot to cover today. There was a lot that happened in the last week in the bowling world, so make sure to strap in and stay tuned. We have a ton of PBA news. We're going to talk all things bowling balls near the end of the episode. We have a couple of amateur tournaments that we're going to dive into in a little bit, and more. If you do enjoy these podcasts, make sure to follow it on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. But also make sure to let me know if you have any comments, have any ideas for this podcast in the future. I hope you guys are enjoying it, but this is a new podcast. This is only episode number 3. So if you have other ideas for this podcast as well, if you want some guests, if you want some extra topics, whatever it may be, please let me know. We do have bonus topics that happen over on our Patreon for one of our tiered memberships, where we really focus on trying to improve your bowling game. We've talked about things such as prepping for league season and a few other things. So make sure to go check it out over there. Today's bonus topic is going to be adjusting your ball speed and the importance of ball speed and how to be able to see if you need to raise or lower it. So that's going to be the bonus segment over on Patreon. But let's get right into all of this crazy news that's going on right now in the bowling world. So right after our last podcast went live last week on August 3rd, August 4th, PBA dropped a massive bomb of an announcement, but it was more of a teaser than anything else. It wasn't really a large, full-scale announcement and explanation of what's going on, but it was a little bit of a teaser of what's going to be going on in the next couple of months on the PBA Tour, but more specifically on the PBA Regional Tour. Now, a lot of leaks kind of led to this moment, and there was a lot of very doom and gloom rumors that were going around. But a lot of them ended up being proven false, as rumors generally do in a lot of spaces. But we are going to talk about the newly announced PBA Elite Tour. This is an expansion on the PBA Regional Tour, which is going to be bringing a big grouping of brand new events that have more money, that have more marketing, and that overall have more storytelling and more story building alongside them. What it is there are 7 total regions in the PBA world that they use for regionals. And in every single region, we're going to have 3 events between September and the end of the year. Most people are speculating there's going to be one in October, one in November, one in December. We aren't sure quite yet. It's going to be towards the end of the year. But there's going to be 3 events in all 7 regions. So 21 total events. They're going to be live streamed on both Bowl TV and YouTube. Now, I don't know if it's going to be shown on YouTube much. Usually, if any bowling is on YouTube, it is like 1 game or 2 games of the qualifying blocks, but it might all be on YouTube. I'm not sure. It is on the logo, so we'll have to find out more soon. But there are going to be 21 total events happening across the country with more money put on top for these events. Now, some rumors were saying $10,000 per event. That is not proven quite yet, but hopefully we find out more very soon. And just overall elevated storytelling and story building. This is something it seems like the PBA is going to be pushing a little bit more for. They pushed it a little bit in 2026, but it sounds like there's going to be more of that in 2027. And that is something that Peter Murray, the new CEO of the PBA, really likes to push in his other sports that he was in as well, is a lot of the storytelling, because sports are all about entertainment as well as the competition, because you got to bring in people to watch. So it sounds like they're going to focus on that, bring in more sponsors, bring in a lot of other stuff. So that is what the PBA Elite Tour is as of right now. Now, like I said, this is really just a teaser. There isn't more info than this that is public right now. But the good news is the PBA said that on August 10th, they're going to release more information on what this PBA Elite Tour is going to be. They said, and I quote, let me find that quick, additional schedule details, host centers, and tournament information will be available on August 10th. So far, I'm recording this on August 10th. There's been no information, but when we do have info, I will have a special podcast episode going live, going into a little bit more detail about it. But that is what the PBA Elite Tour looks like. Alongside in this news press release, there was a little bit more info that was teased here. One is a PBA Combine. So, if you aren't aware, in NFL, National Football League, there is a combine that happens every single year for players that are entering into the draft, trying to get drafted into a team. They do things such as bench press, they do vertical tests, they do agility tests, a lot of different things. So, the PBA is now adding in a combine. There's zero information about what it's going to be, but there is going to be a combine that is coming apparently very soon. It sounds like in 2027. It says the PBA will launch the first ever PBA combine designed to measure, identify, and recognize top regional players who will be selected for the PBA National Tour. Now, the big question mark is who's selecting and what are they selecting and who is that crowd of people? So hopefully there's more to come with this. That one sentence is the only information we have on the PBA combine. A lot of people are very curious about what this event looks like. I've already made a parody video about what the event is going to look like. It could be something really cool. It could be something fun. But overall, it is another event in the professional bowling world, which is a good thing. The more events, the merrier. So it'll be interesting to see what that PBA Combine actually entails. Now, alongside all of this, it was confirmed that the PBA Elite Tour is going to fit alongside the PBA RPI, the Regional Player Invitational. This is a yearly tournament that generally would happen in Vegas, where the best regional players from every region would be invited out there to try to compete and win this massive title, the RPI title. This is something that both national players and regional players could actually win. But it'll be really interesting to see what that looks like alongside this PBA Elite Tour. I'm assuming, again, this is an assumption, nothing confirmed, all speculation, that they will break the winners of a lot of these events into the RPI, or maybe the top point earners of these three events into the RPI to try to take their place to win that #1 spot. But we will hopefully find out more on August 10th. And then finally, they did confirm that the PBA Senior Tour and the PBA Juniors will be back in 2027. This is awesome news. PBA Juniors is a newer format that's been introduced for youth bowlers to try to win some scholarship money and get their name out there for colleges, which is fantastic so far. It's been a huge success. And then also the PBA Senior Tour. That is the PBA 50 and 60 tours, which is an awesome opportunity for bowlers who are over the age of 50 to be able to compete and win titles, win money, and really have events throughout the summer months, which is really cool. And we will be talking about the PBA 50 in just a minute as well. That is everything we had on the PBA Elite Tour announcement. Again, more to come on August 10th, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I will have a special podcast episode go live whenever that information ends up dropping. Now, let's pivot away from the regular PBA, and we're going to go over to the PBA 50 Tour. The PBA 50 Tour, which is players ages over the age of 50, concluded this last weekend, officially is over. The Tournament of Champions happened, the final event of the season. Chris Barnes ended up winning the Tournament of Champions, and by winning this event, became the PBA 50 2026 Player of the Year. The PBA 50 Player of the Year is decided by a points list of how well you do throughout the whole season, and Barnes ends up winning, I believe it was his first PBA 50 Player of the Year, potentially his second. So let's go through that entire event here. First of all, the top 5 for the event were Troy Lint, Mika Koivuniemi, Chris Barnes, Tom Doherty, and John Janowitz. This is a star-studded lineup, and there was a lot of storylines going on here because the Player of the Year race was really in this stepladder. Here were the situations. If Chris Barnes ended up winning the TOC, he ended up becoming the Player of the Year. That is what happened. If Tom Doherty or Mika Koivuniemi ended up winning the stepladder, rising the stepladder, and winning the TOC, they would have been Player of the Year, whichever one won. If Troy Lint or John Janowitz would have won the event, Tom Hess would have become the 2026 Player of the Year. So it all came down to one single stepladder, which is a crazy finale for the season. For a couple of scores, Chris Barnes ended up running it from this 3 seed, beating Tom Doherty 217 to 208, beating Mika Koivuniemi 269 to 236, and then finally beating Troy Lint 236 to 213. Chris Barnes ended up winning $15,000 for this PBA 50 major. ended up winning the Player of the Year race and overall concluding the 2026 PBA 50 season. Big congratulations to Chris Barnes on that win. We're going to be able to hear more about it, I bet, on the Beef and Barnesy podcast, which happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central Time. Make sure to go check them out. They unfortunately are not on platforms like Spotify or Apple. They are on YouTube and Facebook, though, so go check them out if you haven't. That is all the PBA 50 news that we have. We are going to go over to some amateur bowling tournament news. So if you aren't aware and you're newer to bowling, there are actually smaller tournaments that happen almost every day across the country where bowlers can win money. A lot of non-professional bowlers actually make $10, $20, even $30,000 bowling every single year. So it's a hobby that you can actually make money on, which a lot of people don't really realize. And there's a massive amateur tournament that is coming up in New Mexico in the end of August. It is called the New Mexico Open. This is one of the larger scale adult tournaments, and it is $10,000 on top for this event. $10,000 to win the New Mexico Open. And there are a couple changes coming to the New Mexico Open that are going to affect both, of course, this tournament, but might have a ripple effect towards other tournaments across the country. There are some urethane changes. There's actually a handicap edition that is coming to this event, and then also a couple other things. So let's talk about those for a second. The New Mexico Open, generally run by Mike Fagan, former PBA player, is a full-on singles event that happens every single year in New Mexico. The new additions this year: every female bowler and bowler over the age of 55 will get 8 bonus pins per game. So there is a handicap per game that is being added to this event. Now, it sounds like that is something that happens in some European tournaments as well. So that is being brought over for the New Mexico Open. So it'll be interesting to see if this has an impact on the actual cut scores or not. But every female bowler and every bowler over 55 gets 8 pins per game added onto their score as a handicap. Then, all urethane, slow oil absorption, high performance bowling balls are banned. That is the main list of urethane bowling balls, including 78 hardness balls. So some bowling balls that fit in this category: the Purple Hammer, the Black Hammer, the Crown 78. You have things like the IQ 78. You have the Pitch Black. You have the Motive Shadow Tank. Bowling balls like that are completely banned from this event. Now, the event has a really long and really heavy oil pattern, so would urethane be the best? It depends. It's 47 feet, 35 mils of volume, and very flat. I believe a 1.8 to 1 ratio. So it's a long pattern, a lot of volume, very flat. Urethane might not have been bad, but no urethane is allowed. So you will see concepts. You will see NU bowling balls, NU 2.0, Intel Tour, which isn't an NU ball, but similar, and a Turbo X NU might be in play as well. So this event, like I said, $10,000 for first place. The way to win it, though, you have to make the first cut, which is a 32-person modified bracket. So in the past, it's been a double elimination 32-person bracket. It's been 2 game total pinfall for the winner side of the bracket, 1 game for the loser side of the bracket. But they're changing it this year, where they're actually giving different buy amounts to different groups of bowlers. So the top X amount of bowlers will get 2 rounds of buys. So it guarantees them a spot either in the top 16 or even the top 12. Then the next set of bowlers will get 1 bye, and then the bottom portion of bowlers will get no bye. So it's going to give a little bit of an advantage to if you qualify in one of those higher spots. It's one of the hardest parts with bowling is if you qualify first, what is the advantage that you get versus the guy who qualifies in that final spot? Well, the New Mexico Open is changing it, so those top seeds do get a little bit of an advantage. Now, this event will be live streamed all weekend long on Inside Bowling. This will be at the end of August, so make sure to stay tuned to Inside Bowling on YouTube to be able to watch this really cool event. You will see a lot of professionals. You will see a lot of high-level amateurs. You will see a ton of bowlers coming to this event because $10,000 for winning sounds really, really nice, and that's not even thinking about the side action going on, brackets, high game pots. A lot of other things going on behind the scenes as well. So make sure to watch the New Mexico Open this year to see how this event ends up coming out. Let's move on to a little bit of amateur bowling league scores. We had an 898 shot this last week. Hayden Terrace shot an 898 with a Storm Concept. 300, 299, 299. Big congratulations to Hayden Terrace for this one. This is currently the highest set that the Storm Concept has ever thrown. Was not that prestigious 900, but this is almost as close as you can get. I did not find any videos of his second game, what he missed, but in the third game, he ended up leaving a 6-pin. He was a lefty, so that's like a 4-pin for a righty. But big congratulations to Hayden Terrace on this insane set with surprisingly a concept. I never would have expected a concept would put up a score this high. Usually it's some of those middle end reactive bowling balls that end up putting up those big scores. We've had an Obsession Tour Solid in the past end up shooting a 900. An Ebonite Real Time shot a 900. I know a Storm High Road shot a 900 about 10-ish years ago. But we have not, an Infinity Quest Pearl, another one that just shot 900, but we have not had anything like a urethane-ish ball, like the concept. So big congrats to Hayden Terrace on being one of the first to be able to do this with a urethane-like bowling ball. Huge congrats to him. In other amateur news, we're going to youth bowling. I was actually fortunate enough to be invited out to an event here in Minnesota called the Midwest Youth Championship. This is an event for youth bowlers from age 20 and under, where you can win $5,000 for first place as a youth boys bowler, $3,000 for a youth girls bowler, and $3,000 on the handicap side, which is a lot of lower averages end up jumping into that. So I want to go through a little bit of what happened. We had an electric step ladder that happened in that event. First of all, congrats to the boys winner, Tatum Lee, for taking home $5,000. He had to actually strike out in the 10th frame to shut out his opponent, Dawson Unrath. Now, it was an awesome match. Tatum put up a really, really good fight throughout the entire tournament. Same with Dawson. Tatum actually was saying he threw an effect tour pretty much the entire weekend at 500 grit. It was a 45-foot pattern, 29 mils of volume, and about a 2.8 to 1 ratio, so fairly flat, and also longer pattern, and Effect Tour was his play. Tatum is a bowler who actually just moved down to Florida for more bowling opportunities. He's only 15 years old and made $5,000. Dawson ended up taking home a lot of money as well, a couple $1,000. I believe it was $3,000 for him. Then, moving on to the girls division, we had Kennedy Reindl, who ended up defeating Holly Orgman in the championship match, an intense final. Kennedy ended up missing a 7-pin in the 8th frame to lose the lead. She had the lead throwing a Storm Ion Pro Hybrid for the entire match. She had a lead, missed the 7-pin. Holly came back up, ended up throwing a lot of strikes, but in the 10th frame, Holly missed a 3-6-10 to lose the match. So Kennedy ended up winning $3,000 for that. Holly ended up going home with $2,000. Then the handicap division got absolutely crazy as well. We had Lawrence Redder defeating Riley Miller. And the final shot, Riley needed a mark to win after Lawrence put up 2 strikes in the 9th and 10th frame to be able to shoot a really good score for him. Both of these bowlers average about 150. And then Riley comes up, leaves a pocket 7-10 to lose the match. Lawrence ended up winning the title and also won $3,000 for that one. So big congrats to all these youth bowlers. If you want to watch some awesome bowling and really get a good breath of fresh air for the bowling world, go watch a junior tournament, a youth tournament. They are a really fun time. Had a great time at the Midwest Youth Championship this weekend. So make sure to look out for any youth tournaments in your area as well. Those were all the tournament news pieces that we had. Let's end it off with some bowling balls. We had a lot of bowling ball stuff go on in this last week. In just a couple of days, we are going to have 6 Brunswick bowling balls get officially announced, and we had reviews kick up last week for all 6 of these bowling balls. So I want to talk about a few of them as we go. The 6 bowling balls that are coming out: the Brunswick Warning Alert, which is a hybrid version of the original Solid Alert. We have the Brunswick Combat Solid, which is a new solid version of both the Combat and the Combat Hybrid with the new updated HK22 C² cover stock, which makes it both earlier and a little bit sharper, it seems like. Then on track side, we had the Theorem Delta, a remake of the original Theorem with a new colorway. Then we had the Deviate Intense Collision. This is a new Pearl version of their Collision series. The previous Collision that came out in 2025 was the Severe Collision, a shiny solid. the Radical Intel Tour, which is an odd ball. It is a really early and strong cover stock that isn't NU, but it does absorb oil slower with the original Intel core in it, one of the most successful cores from the Radical brands. And then finally, we had the Evil Eye Pearl from Radical. This is just a pearl version of that original Evil Eye that came out in late 2025. So we had reviews come out, and it was a very interesting review season, to say the least. Coming up first with the warning alert, we had Virtue Bowling Supply, one of the most unbiased reviewers on the planet coming out, who does a lot of great comparisons, talking about how bad the warning alert actually looked for both of their bowlers on their house shot. It was very hit or miss for those guys, very cliffed, very skid snappy in some senses, and otherwise didn't hook in others. So they had a very negative review come out, but then others came out, such as Ron Hickland, who said this ball might be a ball of the year candidate. So reviews are very mixed so far. It'll be interesting to see how this ball reacts in person, but this is the same cover stock as the Crown Victory, but with that alert core in it. So this is a step above a Crown Victory in terms of strength, a little bit smoother than a Crown Victory, but also a little bit earlier as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this ball reacts for more people. But as of right now, reviews are kind of mixed, which is a little bit surprising. Then we had the Brunswick Combat Solid. Reviews were very consistent of this ball. This is one of the strongest bowling balls on the market. It is not as strong as a Zero Mercy. Zero Mercy is still the strongest ball on the market. Same with the Ion Max. This is a half of a step down, but it's a lot more angular down lane. Very quick down lane. So that is a new piece of this Combat Solid. So if you want a ball that's super early, but also quick enough down lane, the Combat Solid seems to be a good play. That ball's retailing for $195 though, so maximum price point from the Brunswick brands. Overall, reviews were very consistent of this guy. It is exactly what you expect. Super strong, a little bit quicker than you'd expect down lane, but otherwise it does fit around where that Zero Mercy, the Spartan, the Ion Max, and the Jackal Onyx all fit. Next up is the Deviate Intense Collision. We finally got reviews for the Intense Collision. Unfortunately, Deviate products get the least amount of reviews for all the brands, which is very sad. But this is a very round and blendy pearl bowling ball, so it's going to be better on the fresh for a lot of those house shots, which is cool to see. Very strong core on it. The cover is a little stronger than you'd expect as well, so it's very similar to a Severe Collision. I was told it is almost an identical reaction to the Severe Collision from 2025. So if you like the Collision series from Deviate, very strong cores, very strong covers, their big asymmetrical line, this Intense Collision could be a good option for you. Next up, Radical Intel Tour. This one, a lot of people aren't really sure what to think of it. It is a very slow bowling ball down lane. It is not as early as Urethane. It is earlier than a Turbo X NU. But is also very slow and very strong. It does absorb oil as well. So it looks like it's going to be a really good sport shot ball. But for house shots, you're going to need to be a little more rev dominant, or you're going to need to want your ball to be very smooth down lane. A lot of people were saying that it's a concept ball, basically, like the Storm Concept, but it's not. It's a little, it flares a bit more. It's going to be a little bit sharper than the Concept. So the cover stock isn't as strong. So it can be in a similar-ish spot, but they are not the same exact bowling ball. So no worries there. Then the Radical Evil Eye Pearl had a very interesting review from Ron Hickland where he torched this ball, completely torched this ball for about 10 straight minutes. It did not match up well on his shot for him. Once he took the surface down, it comes out of the box shiny. He brought it down to 4,000 grit. It looked a little bit better, but it still was not great for him. Now, he said he's going to have another review coming soon about that bowling ball, so more to come. Everyone else thought it was just a pretty standard medium and sharp-ish bowling ball. It's going to be one of the stronger medium and sharp bowling balls or one of the weaker strong and sharp bowling balls. It is a symmetrical ball before you drill into it, but depending on how you drill it, it can change the core numbers drastically. So if you are getting an Evil Eye Pearl, make sure you know your positive access point. Make sure you talk to your pro shop about what layout you want on that bowling ball. Finally, Track Theorem Delta. This one was very simple and very plain. It is a remake of the Track Theorem from 2024. That ball was electric for so many people. It was the ball of the year for that year. And now we are seeing a brand new one come out. The original was discontinued after about a year or so, but now we have a new one that comes out, and it's very, very similar. It is another hybrid. It has a slightly different cover stock to it compared to the original, but the reaction on lane is very, very similar. So if you like your original Theorem, Theorem Delta could be a good play. So those are the 6 Brunswick bowling balls that are coming out over on Thursday, August 13th. Make sure to stick around to find out how they actually react when other people get them. Right now, it's only been staffers and influencers who have thrown them. So once more people in the public actually throw these bowling balls, we're going to have a little bit of a better idea of how they're going to react, what they're going to do, what they're going to look like for the average league bowler and for everybody else. So that's one of the toughest things with bowling is you got to wait a little bit. I don't recommend pre-buying or pre-ordering any bowling balls just because we don't know how they're going to react fully quite yet. When you have a staffer make a review, of course, you got to take it with a grain of salt because there's some bias. Same with an influencer. You got to take it with a grain of salt. There's a little bit of bias involved. So let's wait and see how these bowling balls are going to do. But it was a very interesting review season with a few negative reviews coming out. That doesn't happen very often in the bowling world. We're going to talk about that one on a future podcast of the bowling ball review space as a whole. But it is interesting to see. So make sure to go check out some of those reviewers that we talked about to be able to see these bowling balls on the lane for yourself. But otherwise, that is everything we have today for the bowling breakdown. We talked PBA. We talked PBA 50. We talked amateur tournaments, youth tournaments. We talked bowling balls. We talked a lot of stuff. We have the league season approaching, so we're going to have more and more news coming out about bowling over the next couple of months. I have a couple of interviews that are getting scheduled very soon, it sounds like, so make sure to stay tuned for that one as well on this podcast. Remember to follow and make sure to check out all of our other platforms on other channels: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Discord. We are everywhere for ZVL Bowling. So make sure to come check us out wherever you see fit, whatever your favorite social media platform is. We have a lot of bowling news that's coming very, very soon. So when we have this new PBA news finally drop, I will have a special podcast episode coming. Make sure to stay tuned for that. But otherwise, we're going to have our bonus segment coming up next. You can go check that out over on Patreon. So make sure to check it out on Patreon. We are going to be talking about ball speed adjustments. I want to thank all of you for listening today. I really do appreciate every single one of you. And I will see you all on the next one.